Hello, guys. I have something exciting for you guys today. At least, it's exciting for me because we are playing Karn, the Great Creator. How wonderful. How great. We're playing this 4-mana Planeswalker. If you don't know what he does already, then I don't know what you're doing. Everybody knows this card. 4 mana for a 5 loyalty walker that soft locks your opponent's artifacts, at least their activated abilities. And his +1 lets you turn a non-creature artifact into a creature with power and toughness equal to its converted mana cost, and its -2 lets you search outside of the game or an exile for a artifact card that you own and put it into your hand. So in addition to being able to get stuff from your sideboard, of course, you're able to get anything that might have been exiled throughout the course of the game. So say that you put an Engineered Explosive in the graveyard and then Bajuka Bog it away. Karn can go grab that one. But obviously, the hotness surrounding Karn the Great Creator is going to be the things that you can get in the sideboard. And we are including a couple of bullets to go along with our Karn here. Wait! There's been a mistake. There's been a mistake. 1 second. Cannot possibly make a Karn deck without liquid metal coating in the sideboard. This is one of the best things you can be doing with Karn, and I'll explain that right now. So for a 2-mana artifact, you can tap it to make something into an artifact, in addition to its other types, until the end of the turn. So in combination with Karn the Great Creator, we are going to be able to get liquid metal coating out of our sideboard, and when we cast it, it'll do a few interesting things. So firstly, even if you can't do anything with Karn continuing, let's say that we have 6 mana, we play Karn, -get coating, and then play coating, and pass it back to our opponent. Well, on their upkeep, we can turn one of their lands into an artifact, and Karn will soft lock that land. In other words, they will not be able to activate the land's abilities to produce mana. So you can use this to deny mana sources, you can use this to turn off opposing planeswalkers, and that sort of thing with your liquid metal coating, scavenging ooze activations, I suppose Giver of Runes, although I don't see why that would be particularly useful, but you could do that. Things along those lines. You can deactivate your opponent's ability to use their, whatever it is that you target during their turn, or even during your turn if you so choose. But one of the other exciting things about coding is, of course, you turn your opponent's land into an artifact during your turn, and then you utilize Karn the Great Creator's plus ability to turn their land into an artifact creature with power toughness equal to the converted mana cost, which, of course, for any land is going to be 0. That is correct. With coding plus Karn, you can +2 Stone Rain your opponent for free every turn, assuming you're able to get the coding into play. So, yeah, there's definitely some strong utility in Karn, because in addition to the coding, we have Walking Ballista as a pseudo threat here, able to ping down opponents' creatures. Could use it to kill a Meddling Mage, for example, perhaps, against a human's opponent. Just a versatile card here. Use it to ping down your opponent's stuff, or just cast a big Ballista for lethal. Mostly this one's going to be a secondary threat after having already minus Karn to go get Wormcoil Engine. That's right, the Tron staple, you might say. 6 mana, 6/6, Death Touch, lifelink. Whenever it dies, you get 2 3/3 tokens. 1 with Death Touch, and 1 with Lifelink. So, of course, this is going to be a fantastic card for stabilizing any aggressive board state. Play it against your opponent on Prowess, and they can't attack into it. And play it against your opponent who's playing black-green at mid-range of some sort. Even if they have the answer to the Wormcoil, say a Lily minus, and it's your only creature, then you still get 2 more creatures out of the deal, so very difficult for them to deal with. Of course, the Death Touch token being able to trade with things like Tarmogoyf and whatnot. We also see 1 copy of Tormod's Crypt. I'm going to move it over here so that my face ain't in the way. A 0-mana artifact, you can use it to sacrifice and exile all cards from a player's graveyard. So, of course, against Dredge, playing a Karn, minusing to get Crypt, and crypting them immediately to stop them from going crazy with Dredges during their turn. Very strong. It's also going to be relevant against things like Storm. Of course, we have our Engineered Explosives in the sideboard that we already have, usually in the typical Amulet list. We're able to go get that one with Karn, thankfully. And then we have a last one, the Boat. The legendary boat itself, 5 mana, 6/5 vehicle. So, of course, it's not going to be a creature just just off of playing it. You have to crew it in order to make it a creature. However, when it enters the battlefield, it's going to do 3 damage to a creature or planeswalker an opponent controls. This will let you search for something from your sideboard that'll let you kill a Magus in the Moon, for example. You can use it to ping down an opponent's planeswalker, say a Jace or something like that, if you can get your flagship, of course, to resolve here. And another cool thing is that you can use Karn's plus ability to turn your Sky Sovereign into a 5/5 creature, of course, and then it still gets its attack trigger, dealing 3 damage to an opponent's planeswalker or creature. So, some cool synergy there. Definitely going to be useful against the Devoted Druids of the world, Magus of the Moon, again, Meddling Mage, anything problematic like that, an opponent's planeswalker, if you really so desired to do that. And, of course, all we lose here is a few sideboard slots. I can't really say exactly what's all been cut. I know, one of the trackers got the cut since we have some additional threats in the main board here with the Karn. We cut the Veil of Summers because now we have additional threats to resolve to help us play around Aether Gust. Things like that. And we're still playing 3 Beast Withins for the opposing planeswalkers like Ashiok and whatnot, which Karn happens to be quite good against. Also against things like Blood Moon or, I don't know, Tron lands. The usual suspects that Beast Within is good against. We have a Reclamation Sage that we can, of course, pack for, and all the other usual suspects. We are playing 2 copies of Negate in the sideboard to hopefully give us an edge against some of those combo matchups. Actually, I just realized I added the coding and need to cut 1 card. Alright, the decision's been made. We're trimming down to 2 Beast Withins. It pains me to do so, as I am a big fan of Beast Within, but you don't want to be overboard on that effect, so let's just stick with the 2. Oftentimes I'll find myself wanting to board in only 2 Beast Withins anyways, so... And we have additional threats against these control decks, so we're not really as worried about Ashiok as you might expect. But yeah, we are playing the Battlements and Valakut build. No Slayer Stronghold and Boros Garrison here. Of course, it's a little more free to play the Boros Garrison when you're playing Karn, since Garrison casts Karn all the same as any other bounce land. But of course, I want our Titans to be able to do some unfair things when they come into play. And another thing is that in a build with Karns, you really want to maximize on your Explorers in order to hit a turn 3 Karn, just as a opening hand, just land, second land, Explore, Karn on turn 3. Not much better that you can get than that. Of course, other than playing Karn turn 2 with an Amulet out, with a double Amulet draw, you go turn 1 Amulet, turn 2 Amulet, bounce land, slam Karn. Pretty broken, I must say. Hopefully we can do that to some opponents. I should also mention, this is going to be only my 2nd match ever playing with Karn. All the times I've played in paper, I've played without Karn, despite the fact that I have them, mainly because I like to be consistent with the list I'm playing online and the list that I'm playing in paper, but I did play 1 practice league, and I decided, you know what, screw it, who needs the experience, let's just jump straight into a league and see how it goes. I'm going to be all over the place with what hands are keepable and what hands are not. Never played this list before, never played with Karn the Great Creator before, other than some very limited experience, so we will see. Anyways, that's a lot of talking, so I will see you guys directly in the games. One thing I want to mention while I'm waiting for an opponent here is that it's been fairly consistent across all of the Karn lists that I've seen online to be playing Arboreal Grazer over Sakura Tribe Scout, which I find very intriguing. Even on traditional Amulet lists, I was on Grazer rather than Scout anyways. And so this gives me even more reason to follow the same path here in this list. And of course, we have the turn 2 Karn here with our double Amulet draw. I mean, hey, ask and you shall receive. Is that not the quote? Ooh, turn 2 Karn against a Dredge deck. I was going to say against a red aggro deck. May not be quite the best, as Karn is a little weak against prowess strategies in general, but being able to get a turn 1 Tormod's Crypt going here, it seems quite enticing. We'll play out the Battlements in the hopes that we can get a Titan into play here very shortly. Here goes an Amulet, and we'll pass back. This definitely feels like a Tormod's Crypt kind of matchup, I would say. Luckily, our opponent doesn't have much going here, so... Don't know if we should crack our Tormod's Crypt quite yet. Ooh, wait. So Dryad is going to make us one short of casting Titan this turn, sadly. We can Dryad into Karn, though, and that should be quite fantastic. So let's go with that. And let's leave our growth chamber in play here so that we can get some Titan happening next turn. Still have to play our rot farm here, sadly, in order to get this Karn into play, but who's complaining? I am not. And considering that we are going to have a Titan this upcoming turn, almost assuredly, and probably with haste thanks to our Dryad, if it stays in play, I'm inclined to go ahead and pop off this Tormod's Crypt immediately. So, that way our Titan can go fetch Bojuka Bog and ruin our opponent's day. Yes, we'd like to use that ability. Never had to click that before. Here's Crypt. Here it goes. And let's go ahead and do this now. And we will pass it back to our opponent. We just have everything lined up here. This is the perfect Karn draw, I might say. Just casting Merchant, huh? Not going to be fantastic for our opponent here, not going to lie. So, if we play Rot Farm twice, we'll have 8, 9, 10 mana, cast a Titan down to 4, we'll be able to get a second Titan into play, but we won't be able to haste because our battlements will be in our hand. But I suppose our first Titan can get... It would have to get Tolari West and Bounce Land, so it's going to be better for us to attack here, I think. Yep. I'm sold on it. Keep a Bounce Land in hand here. No reason not to. We'll go get our Titan. We'll get a Valakut, and I guess the other one doesn't really matter. Okay, our opponent agrees. Let's go to game 2 here. So, for the sideboarding, there is the question of whether or not we want to side out the Karns and just bring in things like Tormod's Crypt, but I don't really think that will be necessary. In fact, we don't really have much of a sideboard for this matchup. We probably want Beast Withins for potential Blood Moons or Magus in the Moons. And I'm inclined to keep Karn in the deck and not board in any of the sideboard targets like Wormcoil or anything. I think Wormcoil is just a tad slow to just draw naturally, as we'd rather be putting Titan into play. And if we can get a Karn into play, we can string Crypt into Wormcoil or something like that and be just fine. So I think minimal changes here is going to be what we're looking for. We could bring in Negate, potentially, against our opponent's Conflagrates or Cathartic Reunions, but especially on the draw, I'm not really interested in that. We don't have that many blue sources anyways, so... What we want to side out here are probably Explorers. They do help accelerate Karn, but they are the slowest thing that we can be doing. I suppose we'd rather have one of these Explorers than a Pactum Negation. And I'm debating whether or not we want a Cavernous Souls over one of our lands, but I think our lands are pretty well set up. Don't want to trim the Radiant Fountain. I suppose it might be better to have a Cavern than a Ghost Quarter. Yeah, I like having a turn 1 green source for Grazer instead. I don't foresee Ghost Quartering our opponent to be particularly useful, especially since they have access to life in the loam, so... Leaving 1 explosive seems fine for the Narcomoebas of the world. We'll just see how we can do here. And the name of the game is just getting Titan into play, in all honesty, so if we can manage to do that, we'll be looking pretty good. And this hand seems relatively adept at doing that. We have a turn 1 Grazer into turn 2 3-drop if we draw it, or we can just explore it on turn 2, so I'm liking this hand. Of course, the explosives here is kind of a dead card, I must say. Our opponent mulliganing down to 5 is not good news for them. Could they potentially be looking for something like Blood Moon? Definitely a possibility. We might want to play Explosives on 3 preemptively here in order to play around it. It also would allow us to kill our opponent's prized amalgams and that sort of thing. So it wouldn't be completely dead if they didn't have the Blood Moon effect. Well, regardless, we're leading on Grazer on 1 here. What else would we be doing? This is one of the things that I live for here, is getting Grazer out on turn 1. Just the classic. And we'll pass it back. And if our opponent seems to be suspiciously slow here, then I think I'll deploy an Explosives on 3 here before we do anything else, just to play around a Blood Moon, something of that sort. They did find a Dredger here. They're getting some stuff going. Field. Well, that means that we can have Titan next turn if we deploy Dryad. And assume that our last 2 cards are not Land and Magus. I'm going to deploy the Dryad here, I think. Also, profitably blocks our opponent's ghouls, which is nice. And we'll pass it back. Definitely not attacking with our 0-3 here. Hopefully our opponent doesn't have a Lightning Axe. And if they don't, things should be pretty easy from here, I would think. Assuming nothing crazy happens. Our opponent has Ancient Grudge in the graveyard. Sadly for them, we're not even trying to use a artifact this game. We're just doing this the fair way. I'm certainly blocking a ghoul, I think. And might as well throw a Grazer under the bus. Yeah, I don't see a reason not to. Loam. That is fine. So our Titan is going to be able to get... It's going to be able to get Valakut and Bajuka Bog on entering. I should think... Oh, and now we don't have to pack for it? Beautiful. Beautiful. Now, exactly what we're doing with this Titan is of importance. We don't have any land drops to play before playing the Titan anyway, so we might as well just put it straight into play. There's no way to haste our Titan here either, so I do think that just Valakut plus Bajuka Bog is going to be the move here. We can kill 2 ghouls and exile them. I guess we want to kill the Amalgam. Yeah, let's do it this way. So we need to stack the Bog first, so that things will die before the Bog even goes off. And we'll kill one of these Amalgams, or one Amalgam and one of these ghouls here. And this should pretty well stabilize us, I should think. Our opponent has 3 lands in hand and a Shriekhorn activation, and 2 creatures that are outclassed on the battlefield. They would need some pretty good stuff to happen here. Not attacking with Dryad, of course. They find an Archamoeba. Can't block that one. Swinging out, huh? Well, if we didn't have a Summoner's Pact backup here, then I wouldn't risk losing a Titan to a Lightning Axe, but since we do have a Pact backup, I am not afraid of it. I just want to take as little damage as possible. Lightning Axe is totally fine. In fact, it's better that they axed our Titan than our Dryad, since we're going to get additional Valakut triggers here, so... I'm fairly certain we have lethal here. Can haste the Titan that we're about to play. Yeah. This should probably just be game. suppose we would lose to a Lightning Axe, but I think they would have axed the Dryad if they had it, to be honest. Our opponent is a little salty in the chat here. Sorry, opponent, I did block with a Titan for a reason. That was a choice that was made, not an oversight. We want battlements and a bounce land. Let's just get a growth chamber here. We can save targets these Valakut triggers upstairs. Oh, I guess we should have put the growth chamber on first, but it's whatever. It will be fine. Here's the battlements. And another Valakut trigger. And the haste on this Titan right here. And the concession. Well, that was a pretty strong showing for Amulet, but of course, Dredge is a eternally good matchup for Primeval Titan decks, especially if you're playing the Bojuka Bog in the main board, or if you can just turn 2 Karn into Tormod's Crypt, your Dredge opponent. That's pretty fair, right? Already seeing the power of the Karn father here. But you know what? That was exciting enough, and I hope that you enjoyed or learned something from that match. I'm definitely glad that I was thinking about a Lightning Axe when I decided what to do with my creatures here. And in fact, like I said, being able to keep our Dryad in play and having our opponent Lightning Axe the Titan when we had a backup Titan ready to go might have been the difference between losing that game and winning that game, since we were able to just take it immediately with a bunch of Valakut triggers the turn after. Perhaps they should have taken the signal. I don't know, though. I suppose if you have a Lightning Axe and can kill a Titan with it, you probably have to do it, regardless of whether you're going to die to a second Titan or not. So I guess they were just playing to their outs of us having misplayed. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. Did our opponent make a misplay? Should they have Lightning Axe our Dryad as soon as they got the chance, perhaps? Would you have bothered Lightning Axing a Titan, or would you have tried to Lightning Axe a Dryad with Valakut triggers on the stack? I don't know. Let me know. And yeah, I will see you guys for match 2. This is Red Face Menace, signing off.